Hello everyone. The demigods from Rick Riordan's best-selling novels are being introduced in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and in episode 2 of the Disney Plus series, Annabeth Chase makes her debut. The opening of Annabeth is mostly true to the original work, much like the rest of the series. Though Percy recalls seeing her in the hospital, she first appears when he is still comatose after the Minotaur assault. Later on, he meets her formally, and during the game of Capture the Flag at Camp Half-Blood, the two get close and competitive. Leah Jeffries as Annabeth in Disney's Percy Jackson series makes an instant impact. Being the daughter of the goddess of wisdom, Athena, Annabeth is a determined demigod with a point to make. She takes her ancestry seriously. Although Annabeth seems to be a strong ally of Percy's, the book raises several doubts over her origins and her journey to Camp Half-Blood. Although Annabeth's Greek deity lineage is explained in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the first few episodes don't go into detail about her human father or life before Camp Half-Blood. Luke gives a short explanation of how he and Annabeth came to be at the Half-Blood shelter, but little is known about her prior existence. Frederick Chase, Annabeth's father, is a Harvard graduate who fell in love with Athena while still a student, if the Percy Jackson novels are followed on screen. He received Annabeth from the deity, but their opinions on the infant differed. Frederick, in reality, had intended Athena to bring Annabeth back to Olympus from the beginning. He made the decision to raise his kid alone when the deity rejected him. After her father remarried, the monster attacks and other weird happenings that accompany Half-Bloods caused tension between Frederick and his new family, which led to chaos in Annabeth's home. Because her stepmother never accepted Annabeth's account of the assaults she had suffered, Annabeth and her stepmother did not get along. At the age of 7, Annabeth finally fled her family as a result of this. At the age of 7, Annabeth was forced to flee her family life, and her survival as a young demigod on her own is a tribute to her courage. Fortunately, she didn't have to search long for other Half-Bloods. In the second episode of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Luke remembers that he was already traveling with Thalia, who was a prohibited child of Zeus because of the Pact of the Big Three, when they discovered Annabeth in an alley. They greeted her with open arms after learning she was a demigod with combat prowess. Together, they formed a trio and kept each other alive while traveling and battling monsters. Part of the reason Luke calls Annabeth family is because they have been together for such a long time. Luke and Annabeth's attachment to one another may be explained by their pledge to replace each other's biological family, which they made with Thalia. But the two also went through a devastating loss together. Luke informs Percy that although he and Annabeth arrived at Camp Half-Blood, Thalia did not accompany them to the refuge. Grover was one of the gods, allies, and adversaries that Annabeth, Luke, and Thalia encountered throughout their travels up the East Coast, according to the Percy Jackson novels. He tried to take them to Camp Half-Blood when they came upon the Satyr. Regretfully, Grover made a lot of mistakes that put them in awkward circumstances while traveling. The fact that Hades was pursuing Thalia because he was upset that Zeus had violated his pledge made this situation worse. The gang was being pursued by hellhounds and furies, and they only made it to Camp Half-Blood because Thalia chose to remain behind. In the Percy Jackson novels, this loss has a significant effect on Annabeth and Luke and casts their stay at Camp Half-Blood in a new perspective. The two had been residing at the Demigod Refuge for 5 years when the Disney Plus series premieres. Since their arrival, Luke and Annabeth have both flourished there. The former has grown to be one of the facility's most remarkable demigods, while the latter is honing his swordplay. Naturally, as the program progresses and Percy gets to know the Olympians more, he will go into more detail about their backstories.